I'm Lynn.
I'm Amanda.
And
this is The Pursuit of Badassery, the podcast.
We're cutting through the fluff and cracking open what it really takes to build a business and life that you actually want.
No gurus, no gatekeeping, just real talk, big action, and the badass energy you need to scale and slay.
Some episodes, it's just us.
And sometimes we bring on powerful guests with stories that'll hit home.
Either way, this is not about playing small.
It's about going all in.
Let's get after it. What up, people?
This is Lynn. I'm Amanda. Welcome back to The Pursuit of Badassery, the podcast. It's season 4.
Season 4. Almost at 3.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. We are super excited to be coming back with a 4th season. Thank you for everybody. Just thank you everybody who has been listening to us from the very beginning or who's just joining us now, because you are the reason why we're here. So thank you so much for allowing us to talk at you for 3 years. Yeah. So today we are talking about rebuilding your business after something, after a breakup, after burnout, after, restructuring, after COVID, whatever big marker you want to put in there. We're talking about rebuilding your business because it's not always sunshine and rainbows. There are going to be times that you have to refocus, rebuild, pivot, whatever you want to reinvent. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because this topic has come up a good amount, especially we had a whole new cohort of BA, badassery, and a few individuals in there were really feeling the pressure to reinvent, rebuild. And so we'll break it down for you. First of all, whatever phase you're in, how you look at it is really important. And burnout seems to be a key terminology. And I know we've done podcasts on burnout before, but don't look at it as a failure. It's knowledge, right? So what is happening in your life to make you feel this way? But it is hard work because you have to dig down. It's not all external. It's you, and getting to that kind of like that core essence of why am I becoming burnout? What's going on? What do I need to change? And then the breakup, either in a personal relationship, in a business, with a product, with a person in your business, even firing somebody, that gives you clarity. Where do you need to grow stronger? And it helps you, especially depending on how close they are, really start to rebuild yourself, reinvent yourself independently without that other individual. And so, but it also gives you clarity of like what's missing, what needs to change, where you need to step up to the plate. So don't look at them as bad things, even bullshit. It's opportunity to learn. In my opinion, like I feel like it gives you the ability to learn. We don't always want to be in bullshit, but bullshit's going to happen. Like we're realists, like it's going to happen, but it's an opportunity to learn. Like, what can I take away from this? And sometimes it might not be anything. Sometimes it's like, don't ever touch that hot stove again. Sometimes it is, you need to change some things internally, including an environment. Even when you see the potential, even when you see the promise, even when you like the people around, sometimes it's just not a good fit anymore.
Absolutely. There are plenty of times where you have to rebuild. I would say most of the time you're rebuilding, it's not necessarily because you initially wanted to it. I mean, it depends. It depends on the reason for the rebuild, but there are a lot of times where it's not necessarily your first choice, or you might feel blindsided. That's where you get some of that burnout or like when things are shifting. But that's absolutely an opportunity to look at what's working and what's not, to see what your role in that was and how you can be the part that helps it get further. There's always going to be things that suck. There's always going to be things that are great. And we talk about that as this roller coaster of entrepreneurial journeys. Like that's what's part of it. And you get to decide how you frame that. You get to decide what you're going to get out of it. And it's always pouring and it's always the worst case scenario, then that's what it's going to be. But if you can reframe it in your head to say like, okay, this is what worked from this. When it comes to, for example, if you lose a key person, like what did you like about them? What did you not like about them? There's nobody who is absolutely perfect at everything about their job. So what are the things you want to take away? Where can you see how the system broke a little bit when they left? And where can you fill in those blanks so that if somebody, a key hire, leaves later, that won't happen again. So this is like real feedback that you can't get anywhere else. And it actually can help you progress faster in a lot of ways, because if you see that real time, like this doesn't work and I immediately need to fix it, it becomes like that urgent, important thing to fix. And then you know that you can create a system around it that it won't ever happen again. So these are some of the best opportunities to see real change and growth in your business, because if something immediately isn't working and you know the exact reason why, I mean, that's great feedback. And that's great to really restructure yourself so that it doesn't happen again. Because a lot of times, at least from my business experience, things will sneak up on you and you don't realize it till you're like, oh, shoot, like that is from 10 years ago. This is, yeah. So when you can get that kind of real instant feedback, that is such a blessing in a lot of ways, because you know you won't make that mistake again. I mean, again, it's
hopefully.
But I mean, like the hot stove, touching a hot stove, like you probably won't do that again. If you have that kind of reaction and you know immediately, oh, that hot thing is the thing, so I don't do that thing.
Yeah.
That's such a nice, it's like a load off your mind from an entrepreneurial standpoint, because that's so much easier to spot in the future.
I agree. You know, this phrase keeps ringing in my head, but it was during the COVID time where everybody was like, oh, back to normal, bounce back. Yeah. And listen, today is not the same as yesterday, unless you live in Groundhog Day. And especially when you go through something like that, there is no normal, back to normal, if you would. So we also want to plant that seed as you're kind of like going through the shit. Like things don't go back to what you think that they
evolve.
Yeah, they evolve. They have to.
They have to. My God.
They have to. And so keep that in mind. All right. So we've talked a little bit about around that. Let's give you some tools of what to do. And the first thing is that we would suggest is to audit everything. And Amanda started to tap into this. What goes right? What goes wrong? What am I doing? What am I not doing? Where am I feeling it? Depending if it's burnout, bullshit, or breakup, the 3 V's, or something in between. Audit the situation, audit yourself, audit your outlook, audit the people around you, audit your SOPs, audit everything. Take a couple of days and just really, and this is, even though it's uncomfortable, it is one of my key things, is like go inward. And that also means go inward with your business and say, have a hard look at it with discernment. And sometimes you might need to have help with auditing. You know, we do this a lot for our clients, but audit everything, because this gives you the broader picture of what's going on instead of you reacting to what is happening right in front of you.
It's all about the clarity. You have to know what's happening, because again, it's not always as black and white as I touched a hot stove. I mean, that one's pretty obvious, but in your business, there's going to be more facets. There's going to be people involved. There's going to be processes involved. There's going to be more things involved. So getting the clarity around what actually is the problem, because sometimes that's not always crystal clear, depending on the situation.
Like a chiropractor.
Yeah.
Just because my neck's out doesn't mean it's coming from my neck. It's probably coming from my pinky toe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're going to get slapped with burnout and breakups and all this. If you're going to get slapped, you might as well figure out where it's coming from, so you can figure out how to avoid it in the future. And we're not saying you're absolutely going to avoid it in the future, because life's real hard sometimes. And if you can get clear around what's working, what's not, and really audit those systems and figure out, fine tune and figure out those analytics in your business, it's going to go further. And even if you don't actually fix the problem because you didn't quite identify it, you're a little bit closer to fixing it. I mean, it's not like a switch you can flip, like, oh, problems are solved now. I wish it were that way, but sorry, denied. But you can get a little closer. And then the next time something comes up, you get a little closer, and then you get a little closer until your systems are near perfect. But there is no perfect. There's always going to be something that has to come up later, because if there isn't, then you're really not growing. So that's a whole nother problem. Yeah. Sit down, audit. It's not the sexy part of business ownership, but will be the sexy part of today's episode, not necessarily audit.
All right. So the next step we would say is this is where you start redesigning. So it's not the implementation of, but you're redesigning your path, redesigning the vision, redesigning what needs to, the people around you, redesigning your own outlook, your mindset. Amanda mentioned mindset, I believe, on this podcast. If not,
we've mentioned it before.
We talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Redesigning it from a place of empowerment, because you've audited, not from a place of ego, not from a place of coward, not from a place of spite. And sometimes the spite, kind of like I'm going to do this just to prove you wrong, can help, but it's toxic at the same time. So just be aware. Are you doing it from a place of empowerment or in reaction of? So the redesigning part, if you're doing it in reaction of, based off of that feeling, once that feeling is taken out the picture, then you're not in alignment with the redesign anymore. And or if you're building it from a place of negative, like the coward, the spite, the ego, then you can amp that particular feeling up, which is also having you design something on shaky ground. So redesigning is super important after the audit phase.
Absolutely. And then when you're redesigning, simplify. Like that's my favorite part about redesigning, is because you've already audited, you see what works, what not, what it doesn't. You're redesigning it. So why not design it simpler? Because depending on what you're redesigning, there might be a better way now. Yes, that way was working before, but maybe there's a better, cheaper, faster way to do it that can get the same results. Let's simplify as much as we can, because that any of the simplification, just in its heart, there could be some time that you're gaining somewhere else for something else, like some time or some money, some energy towards another project that you didn't know you had. Because I know a lot of people talk about how I don't have the bandwidth, or I'm at capacity. We talk about it too. Maybe that's just because your systems are broken a little bit and you didn't realize it because it's working.
Yeah.
And until you kind of re-audit, redesign, and then simplify it, you don't realize that you're misusing resources, whether, time, money, energy.
Yeah.
But simplification, a lot can change. And I think about it all the time from a business perspective of what worked in my business 20 years ago. Some things that didn't exist that exist now, 20 years later, that, oh, wow, that would have been so much easier had I had this app or this tool or this person on staff. Things change. So we want to change with it. And that simplifying your processes, this is a great time to do it, because you've already audited, you saw what works. You're redesigning things anyway. So let's design them better, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to the simplification of is, as entrepreneurs, we do all the things. We continue to just lay all these layers on top of us, regardless if we're digging into the apps or hiring a VA or whatever the case is. That's also part of the simplification process, is getting rid of the busy work, getting rid of the things that aren't moving the needle, really redesign it in a way that is going to streamline you. So then the next step is you start to build trust again. And the building of the trust, it has to start with yourself. Do you trust yourself to move forward? And so how do you build trust? There's so many different ways. We could do probably a whole series on building trust with self and with others and businesses. But you need to do that kind of check-in with the people around, but also build your own trust, not just with yourself, but with the people around you. This is really important because typically, like with burnout, you move backwards, like you go into a shell. With a breakup, you're not sure who liked who, whose team they are. Bullshit. So sometimes you have to build a lot more trust. Sometimes you only have to build a little bit more trust on the external, but always start with the internal, building trust. And then if you have employees or teammates, then with them, and then with the clients. Obviously, sometimes that has to happen all at once because you have big accounts or whatever that you don't want to lose, or you don't want to be affected. Yeah, you might have to do all at once, and some fake it till you make it sometimes. But building trust does not mean, though, giving away everything. It's reconnection, it's having conversations, it's having empathy, it's listening, active listening, it's all the things.
And we know how hard it can be sometimes, because depending on what the situation is, you might not be in a great headspace. You might not. It might take you a little bit of time, but hopefully at this point, because when things go poorly, if this is a bad situation, there's always that reactive period. But if you can get through the auditing, the redesigning, the simplification, like you're getting to that point, you should be in a better headspace by then, even with yourself, to build your own trust, because you've had a little bit of time to get out of that reactive nature, which is why we kind of recommend this order of things, because coming back into it, the best thing you can do is get right into action. And so auditing is an action, redefining things is an action, simplifying things is an action. And then by then, when you're getting to what is a bit more emotional sometimes, like building trust with yourself, with others, if you're building trust, there's going to be some emotion there. There's going to be some other things involved. At that point, you should hopefully be in a better headspace. So you're at least open to the idea, because I know I've struggled in the past when I had these huge events that happen and I'm rebuilding or restructuring after the fact. You go through the motions for a while. Like you said, you're fake it till you make it. But a lot of that going through the motions happens in the earlier stages when you're auditing, where you're just trying to get yourself out of reactive and get out of, get your groove back scenario. So building trust, again, does start with self.
Yeah.
There's a lot that will go in there. But hopefully, if you put the other work in, that step will be easier if you build it here rather than trying to do it first thing when you come back out of it. Because in my opinion, there's too much emotion involved in it to try to do that thing first. So building trust should come after you've kind of gotten your shit together.
Yeah, our favorite SOPs and systems. This is where you like either you redesigned earlier, right? But this is where you're either implementing or taking a look at, because the redesigning could have been your vision as well. And so then we want you to look at your SOPs and your systems, your processes, and what needs to change. What can you scale back on? What needs to be amped up? But this is also applied. Where are we falling short? Where are we not applying or taking action? So that's
And there will be something. And if you don't find something,
absolutely,
you need to go back and look at your auditing again. Because
absolutely.
if you get to this point and you're like, this system still works, everything still works, you missed a step. You missed something along the way, because something can change and improve. Something can be streamlined. Something, maybe there's something you didn't look hard enough into. And I myself just recently looked at some of my own systems, the systems that I put in place, like these are great systems. And then I realized that there was a disconnect with the people who were implementing the systems. Like the system worked, but the system isn't being done. So system is no longer valid. So
that works.
There are times that you have to make adjustments that you didn't even think you had to make. So look at it. You have to look at it. You have to think about it. And you have to really be open with the positives and negatives that come from that, because it's not going to work exactly the way you wanted. Even when you're redoing things, there are going to be shifts. There are other people involved. There are other circumstances involved. So, you're rebuilding. It doesn't mean it's going to work exactly the way you had it in your head 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 weeks ago. So last night, after 3 glasses of wine,
yes,
you never know. So really be open and give yourself a little bit of grace around that, because with all these shifts and changes, there's going to be a lot of things that come up emotionally, physically, just in your business in general. So be open to those changes, be open to those adjustments and how you are affected by them, because things will come up.
Absolutely. And just a side note on the SOP systems processes side is everything that Amanda said. And remember, you're rebuilding. So they're going to change. If you're not changing them or updating them, everything in our business is a breathable, livable thing. Nothing's static. Everything is moving. They're dynamic. And so you have to. Then the last thing we'll tell you is share it. So on my notes, I post on an Insta story. Essentially share it because you want to go back out into the world. It's slightly different than trust, because trust isn't necessarily in front of everybody. It can be on social media and stuff. You're building trust, but that's more of a personal and personalized thing. Then you want to share it. Tell people so that way they can come along. When you can share it with, and I'm not saying, we're not necessarily saying post on an Insta story, you can, but this is you come back and say, hey, I'm back. We had a stumble, or I had to take a few weeks off, or we reinvented things or rebuilt a couple of parts of our business. It's okay. It's okay to say that. We need to not have this stigmatism. No, that's from the eye.
That's astigmatism.
Oh. See, this is
Stigma.
That's
the word you're looking for. We make a great team.
We do. Great team. 3 hours of sleep. My brain hurts.
Addendum is the word you were thinking of earlier. When you were on that call 3 hours ago. Practice it.
It's not an addendum. I forgot where we're at, but sharing is important. Get rid of the stigma of that we can't share personal stuff, or when we fall down, right? Everybody does it. Yeah. Everybody does it.
Yes.
And so when we can openly talk about it, not in pity mode, not in victim mode, not in the woe is me, and I'm sitting in the shit and
my life is hard,
like shit. Sharing it. I do it all the time, especially when I take a month off of social media. I'm like, hey, I took a month off and this is why. I needed to recalibrate. I needed this. I needed that. I have my team take this time off too. And I think that it's important because people can see you as a real person, your business as a real thing, and that you care, and that you're turning around and actually doing all the things that need to be done.
Oh, it's just, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just thinking of the fact that the other day I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't been doing social media for so long. I haven't been doing, and I looked back and it was there's 2 days. So it was 2 days that I hadn't posted because I just hadn't scheduled things. And normally I'm very good about having a month scheduled at a time, but I just didn't. But in my mind, 3 weeks had passed and I hadn't reached out to people. But then when I actually looked at the calendar, it'd only been 2.5 days, depending on what country you're in. So I'm like, oh, I guess that's fine. So I'm just laughing because literally time changes things. And you might, on those lines, things that are big in your world that were like huge things for you, your people might not have noticed as much as you did.
Absolutely.
So things that blew up in your face and your whole world crumbled over a weekend, and then you're like, I have to regroup and build trust. You might not have to as much as you think, because
like it feels devastating at the time.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not saying to not acknowledge your feelings there, but know that when you are really ready to share it, and there can be that vulnerability around it, it might not be as big a deal to other people as it was to you.
Yeah.
So, take it with a grain of salt. Like it might not.
You don't have to share everything. Like we're not saying like, hey, I felt
Here's
that
the
I
video.
got shit in my face and look at me now.
Yeah.
You can address it in a different way.
It doesn't have to be a trigger warning, graphic content coming
and
scenario.
It could be more of like, not the shit that you got in or the breakup or the burnout, but what are you doing in the future? Hey, this is what we got planned. We're super excited about this because this, or we've been doing some recalibrating, blah, 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 right? So you don't have to talk about the B slap, as Amanda called it, but talk about how you're moving forward. That's what we want you to share.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a million ways you can spin it. Yeah, there's always a way that you can share with people in an authentic way, but that still gets the point across. So don't be afraid to rebuild. Don't be afraid to let people know that you're rebuilding.
Yeah.
People want to see that evolution. That's part of who you are as a person. You're going to evolve. Your business should too. And people want to share that with you. People who count anyway, the people who matter.
Yeah.
Really want to share in that with you.
Absolutely. We want to hear, have you had to rebuild? Have you had to rebuild after a B slap? And how is that for you? Are we missing any steps that you would add? Put it in the comments below, and definitely share this with your network who need to hear this, preferably before you have the B slap. So that way you can kind of prepare for it as much as possible, because it's going to happen. We all get B slapped.
It does. It's going to happen. If it hasn't happened to you yet, consider yourself lucky. And now you have some steps to go for when it eventually does come down, because I don't know of any business that doesn't have something come up that throws you for a loop.
For real.
Huge one.
Yeah. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, share with your peeps, and until next time,
get after it.
Thanks for tuning in. But remember, listening is not doing.
Take what you heard today and move.
Share the episode, leave us a review, and tag us when you take action.
Head over to thepursuitofbadassery.com and see how we're helping entrepreneurs get results without the fluff.
Until next time,
let's get after it.